This is the Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis.
Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. We have an excellent show today. At any time, you can email us at messiahhour@gmail.com, or you can email the station at Israel Sports and News Radio at gmail.com, and go to our website. You can find that by going to my Facebook, ARILUIS, and you could see on my wall our new website, and feel free to click on the donation section. Supreme Court of the United States makes decision on Friday to allow gay marriage in the few states that currently do not allow gay marriage. What does this mean for the United States and the world as a whole? On the line to discuss this, the co-author of the book, The World of the Ger, our rabbi from Spot, Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi, how are you doing out there?
I'm all right, Ari. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, indeed. So let's start with the beginning of the quote-unquote morality of the issue, because this is a topic that inflates passions. People are very strong with their belief on either side. It's not really a parv situation. So first, let's talk about the morality of the issue of gay marriage and a concept called sekel inushi, and tell the audience what that means.
So the Torah comes with it a set of values, a set of morality, wisdom, knowledge. In other words, it's a construct of how to run society. If there's ever going to be a utopia on planet Earth, Jewish people believe the Torah is going to be the thrust of that utopia society. The problem is nobody can agree on what the Torah is saying. Does the Torah believe that non-Jews should live alongside Jews? That's an ethical question. It's a wisdom question. It's a knowledge question. It's an everything question. Are there non-Jews in Israel? Should Jews be abroad? That's just one issue of the Torah's many issues. Currency. Should we have interest? Is the banking system just? How do we perfect world economy? How does tzedakah work? Giving charity. Should we give more? Should we give less? Do we give to the non-Jews? Can we receive from the non-Jews? If we receive charity from the non-Jews, do we give it back? Are there certain non-Jews yes? Are there certain non-Jews no? These kind of issues have been hashed out for thousands of years. And we're still in exile. We haven't worked it out. And we're far from our utopian society.
All right.
Now, again, there's many areas to discuss about morals and ethics. Now, in the universalism of Torah, aside from the fact that a Jew has 613 commandments, many people are well aware of the 7 laws of Noah. 7 laws of Noah, again, don't kill, don't steal, no adultery, don't eat the limb of a live animal, make courts of justice, don't blaspheme, and do not worship idols. Most will tell you that is the guideline of utopian society, as at least the layman's concerned. Now you have a country like America. It's the ruling class of the world. It received its mantle from the UK, United Kingdom's empire, classic Edom, the West, which was passed down from Rome, inherited from Greece, passed on from Persia, given over from Babylon, the Israelite Empire, which suffered the calamity of the destruction of the temple, which was supposed to represent God on earth, God's ways on earth, and ultimately where the Jewish story began with Egypt and their immorality. Now, most people are prepared to move on with that information. But in the Talmud, there's another set of mitzvahs. Not the 7 laws of Noah, but the 3 laws of Noah. Do not participate in cannibalism. Do not have marriage contracts between men. And to uphold the honor of the Torah. Go ahead.
Wait, okay, hold on one second. I always thought there were 7 laws of Noah. You're saying there are 3?
So this is the thing. The systems of mitzvahs have many systems. Jewish people, well documented, have 613 laws. 7 laws of Noah. The Talmud says, but really, as long as a nation doesn't accept the 7 laws, the individual has to take on 7 laws. But a nation, its prerequisite number is 3. And if a nation or a person progresses, let's say the full bloom of righteousness, morality, consciousness, they actually expand to 30 mitzvot, 30 mitzvahs given to the nations. And ultimately everything, as we say in the Torah, can be fit into the divine 10 commandments. So there's many systems at play, different scenarios. The one we're focusing on for us, obviously, the 3 laws of Noah, particularly the marriage contract amongst men.
Okay, and can you tell our audience some of the sources for this, where we're learning out that there's actually more mitzvahs for the B'nai Noach?
The tractate of the Talmud, Chulin, page 92, talks about the 7 laws, 3 laws, and 30 laws.
All right, well, there you go. Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports News Radio. You're learning something new every day. I just learned that as well. Did not know that there were more than 7 laws. Let's talk about the systems of mitzvahs and how this ties into the gay marriage issue.
So is gay forbidden? Most people are going to say that fits into adultery, the 7 laws of Noah, right? To basically do not be immoral sexually. But when we look at the 3 laws, the universal national laws, no cannibalism, no gay contract amongst men, and to uphold the honor of the Torah. That goes without saying that the gay issue, on every level, comes into the 3 laws. Now notice, they are national laws. And here there was a famous story at the turn of World War II that it was known that America was going to win the war. Because at that time, America was known, openly known, to carry the mantle of the 3 laws of Noah. Gay was illegal in America. The conservative Christian kind of Torah, Bible mentality was strong. And obviously, there was no Islam of eating the hearts of your enemies in America. That basically held until Friday. I remember when I got to yeshiva in 2001, we were all shocked with the coming down of the Twin Towers. They came down in September. I made Aliyah in November. I remember I went to my first barbecue at yeshiva. I was a young guy. And back then, everyone was saying things like, the Holocaust will never happen in America, where Jews have it good. It's, all kind of things were said. And then there was always the other point of view that said, hey, we were warned, the Holocaust can happen anywhere. Don't settle for, an American, for what it stands for. And I was like, come on, America's cool. There's no problem here. And I had a friend in Brooklyn who was in yeshiva with me. He was from Brooklyn. And he was, he was a guy who had been around yeshivas for a couple years. And I was new. I never thought yeshivish in those days. So for me, Seichel Enoshi was all there was, right? If I think it and it's rational, it must be true. And the Torah operates on the nefesh elokis, the godly soul. Meaning you don't necessarily think in terms of rational and logical thoughts, but precedent in Torah thought. And my friend said to me straight up, he said, how can you tell me that the America that you know is the old America? And I'm trying to prove my point with Seichel Enoshi. Just, David Katzism thought. He looked at me straight in the face and said, do you realize in the 1950s it was illegal to be gay in America? And it was such a shock to hear somebody say it in those terms. And then we realized that America has in fact changed. It used to be very illegal to do a lot of things in America. Now, as of 2001, those boundaries were gone. And now, as we're seeing, as of Friday, they're really gone. And so America won World War II because it upheld the 3 laws of Noah. And now that we've seen America is basically thrown off all three laws by backing Islam. Islam literally eats the heart of its enemies. Right? It doesn't say why the law is cannibalism. Straight up, if you eat anything of another person, it's cannibalism. And there's videos. Islam does strange things in their victory. And the gay marriage amongst men, America now has allowed that. Every great civilization has fallen to the immorality of such. Greece, Rome, every single one of them. America's ruled, and now we see there's an article about Russia. The godless Russia has outlawed Islamic fundamentalism, has outlawed gay marriage, and has erected a menorah in Moscow. We are seeing so many unprecedented things. I'm not saying Russia for sure is the next leadership based on upholding the three laws of Noah. But could you imagine if it is? If America's time is finished through the three laws, and if Russia actually ascends through the three laws? And if not Russia, then maybe the secular state of Israel, which is dealing with its own gay issue, and its own Islamic issue, and its own Torah issue, which begs the question even more towards Russia. Very, very interesting state of affairs when you view the world not through the laws and mentalities of men, Seichel Enoshi, but through the intellect of Torah precedent.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. Again, the email is messiahhour@gmail.com. Rabbi Katz, let's talk about what exactly is the gay issue and why it is problematic, I guess, outside of even the Torah scope, the Torah, or is it just that's what it is? That since it is against the Torah to practice homosexual acts, then that's what the issue is.
The problem with the issue...
yes, I believe everybody agrees it is an issue.
Everyone
as
knows...
I said at the top of the show, this is very much a passion
people that are
felt issue. People are very strong.
Everyone knows... Let's call it this.
So
everyone knows it is an issue. Say, it's an issue against you by pulling back and saying, wait a minute. Right? There's no need to point fingers here. Let's just call it an issue. Right? It is an issue. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a push to make it legal. So the first thing that I'm noticing with Torah lens at this discussion is, can we or can we not articulate the issue? Both sides, I don't think, are articulating the issue. And the result of that is it just shows how much of a Torah issue it is. The whole world is a Torah issue if you get to the bottom of it. So what we're looking at is many, many issues in the issue. What does the Torah consider a gay marriage? I.e., what level of relationship would incur a Torah penalty in a Torah governed society? If two guys hold hands, is that considered a sin? If they do one level of relationship, is that a sin? If they are in bed together, is that the sin as the Torah describes? Or does it go down to the three laws of Noah, an actual contract of marriage between men? At what point is somebody guilty of a Torah crime? Does the Torah have compassion on people who claim to be born this way? Are they born that way? And again, if they are, does the Torah acknowledge this? And if we know that the Torah is not asking for the mentality of men, then is there a God revelation explaining either this way or that? Meaning, is the Torah merciful to a degree? We know the Torah has a penalty to a degree. These discussions have never really been solved by the sages of the Torah. Now, we have our ruling, don't think we don't. Right? Gay marriage is illegal in modern Judaism. But if the Sanhedrin and the temple were to become built, we have to know exactly what is a gay relationship that occurs penalty. The 3 laws of Noah stipulate it's a gay contract amongst men for marriage. So there's many issues. One of the major issues here too is, are we saying it's a personal issue, or are we saying that it's not good for society? Torah is saying it's a personal issue we're concerned with, all the more so society. 3 laws of Noah says this is more of a societal issue, the personal restraint request, meaning a society is not built to have in it an open expression of deviance against nature. Now you'll say that's pretty heavy words to call it deviance. My eating chocolate chip cookies is a deviance against nature. McDonald's is a deviance against nature. Sweatshops in China is a deviance against nature when I wear my Nikes. Right? You're not supposed to have Nikes from 5-year-old kids working in sweatshops. You're paying for that. You're paying the price for those Nikes on nature's expense. And you cannot escape God. So we all go against nature. We all transgress the Torah. Anything less than a godly society is against nature. The gazelle ends up in the mouth of the lion. That's a godly world, because God created the lion to eat the gazelle. Mankind was told, you are not a lion, you are not a gazelle, I gave you, man, the Torah. As the lion eats the gazelle, you, man, will love your brother. Now, then there are restrictions of how far that love goes. God tells you through the Torah what is acceptable as a human behavior and what is not. Because the lion doesn't need to be told. It just knows, eat gazelle. Man sees the gazelle being eaten. We say, hey, we then eat, man eats man. The 3 laws of Noah says, hold on a second. Man does not eat man. Man loves man, but not that much. Why? Honor the Torah. So we see the framework of how Torah works and how society works. But to what extent does a society blend its animalistic nature with its godly soul nature? There has to be a merciful medium. That's what we're looking for in the Torah of truth, the Torah of the Messiah. And all the while we're debating those answers. God willing, the revelation will come soon in a messianic arrival. The other side, i.e. the non-Torah side, then takes advantage of these areas of gray that may or may not exist. What we do know is what happened on Friday has stepped over the boundaries of what is permissible existence. Now, the OU came out with a statement. We are against gay marriage as a Jewish religion. As a democracy and government, we're not against that. And I agree with that. You have to say that, otherwise it's not true. What I am against is if we have the laws of Noah that say what a healthy society is, and we wish for a healthy society so the government doesn't swallow its people, as it is said in Pirkei Avot. We have to say that we've seen exiles lead to empires that fall over these very issues of immorality. It is in the best interest of America to not have done this. Is it a perfect society if it outlaws gay marriages? No. Is it better off? Yes.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. My guest is Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the book, The Role of the Ger. Rabbi Katz, let's speak about if this issue, gay marriage, is a societal issue, or a personal issue, or is it both?
Again, the Torah always oscillates back and forth. It is a personal issue. Some systems get into your personal nature, 613. Some systems get pretty much into your personal nature, 7 laws of Noah. The 3 laws are societal, but they expect you, the inhabitant, to be in your personal nature of the 7, based on the Torah itself, 613. Jewish influence on the world, which is very, very pro-male-female in their respective categories. It is illegal in Torah for a man to wear a skirt. Some say that's why Joan of Arc was killed, because in the Christian society where she was from, she was a woman wearing man's clothing. So obviously, where do the Christians get it from? From Jewish thought, that we are very strong in the rules of male-female. The repair of Adam, Tikkun Adam, is based on man reclaiming his masculinity and females reclaiming their femininity. Kohanim, priests, reclaiming their priestliness. Everyone is in a diminished state of existence. Our job as the Jewish people through Torah is to give back the world its identity. The world has no identity. Americans don't even know what Americans are anymore. I know that a lot of you right now listening are in America and you don't see it. One of the biggest gifts that I've received of living in Israel for 15 years is, I think, Ari, you can attest to this. We see Americans differently as being now American in Israel. When I'm in Sfat, you can point the American tourist out. Meaning, I now see America as a foreign country, simply because I'm not there anymore. And when you're in America, it's not as resoundingly clear what America is and what it sounds like and all these things. But when you're abroad and you see America, it's a different ball game. It's a completely different ball game. What's going on America? The laws against the gay marriage are to uphold society in a certain just way. You can't have a society so naked. I mean, the next thing if you want to say, why is open sex on the street illegal? If you don't like it, don't look. Right? That might make sense where you are, God forbid. But that's not how society operates. Now, the counter side of that is Sharia law. That's also a farce. My sister taught English in Saudi Arabia for 2 years. Strict Sharia law. And what she saw was, on the streets there's Sharia law. In the private domain, everybody's like rabbits, if you know what I mean. The law stops in their homes. But on the street, they wear the burqa, they cover up, and it's Sharia law. America's taking an opposite approach. What they're saying is, in our homes is really not the issue. We want to bring it all out to the street. Very much like the 3 laws. Cannibalism, contracts between men, and Torah. It's kind of like this conservative, liberal, perverted both sides. Right? I'm so against my enemies, I eat them. I'm so into liberalism, I even promote marriage and contracts between men. Because that's what it really is. No one really is proud of Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner, for becoming a transgender, this and that. What they're saying is he's such a hero because of how liberal and responsive we should be to him. Nobody actually cares about what he's going through in his transgender medications and surgeries. It's more about the statement of liberalism. And that once you've gone that far, you've already lost your original cause. It's no longer the thing that you're fighting for itself. So the 3 laws of Noah say, let's not get there at all. You do what you got to do at home. That's between you and God. You have 7 laws of Noah. That's also between you and God. And in a Torah world, you're expected to uphold the righteousness and morality of the Torah. But as the societal form, the 3 laws are a must for society to operate in a certain public domain.
And as I talked about, this is an issue that leads to a lot of passion on both sides, and one of the concerns from the religious side is it could lead to religious persecution. I want to get your thoughts. Do you believe gay marriage can lead to religious persecution?
I had a nice talk with my learning partner today. And he lives in Texas, which is very Bible Belt, as everybody knows. It's also very Ger Belt for the Ger listeners. And he presented to me like this. Now, there's many, many ways we can draw this scenario. But let's paint one picture. Gay marriage is allowed in America as of Friday. Last time I checked, there's a lot of churches in America. A lot. And churches, as we know, from kind of not a conspiracy point of view, but it's all about the money, right? We know that. Religion, money, but call a spade a spade. So it's like God is almost asking the ministers of the churches, hey, you guys want a lot of money, right? Yeah. It's all about the money. Yeah. Pass the plate. All right, so here's the deal. We're going to make legal gay marriages, which is 100% against what you stand for in your church. Now that marriage is legal, the government is going to demand that you marry off gay couples. Now, there will be financial giving for this. It's not free. The question is, what will the churches do? We've heard of the whole thing about the cake making for whatever that was about. What will churches do when they are told you will marry these people or else? Throw in a bit of antagonism amongst the straight and gay populaces, right? You don't accept me, and I want you here, therefore I'm gonna come in here and in your Dalai-lamas, these kind of little cat and mouse games. So what happens when the government enforces the marriages in the churches? And the churches now have to say, do we take the money that we really want, or in the end, did we actually have values that we didn't realize how deep they go? You could end up having a lot of disgusted Christians walking out of the church. The whole thing about gays have a right. Well, you can say religion doesn't have a right. All of a sudden, whites have no rights in this whole racist thing going on. All kinds of persecution of what was the majority now seen as a minority. The Confederate flag is illegal. I know guys back in Dayton who really believe the slogan, the South shall rise again. And they have guns in their homes waiting for the revolution. I thought that was hogwash growing up in Ohio in the 90s. Now I'm seeing it wasn't so far out of my life. The Confederate flag is illegal. Whites are racist and supremacist terrorists. Straight people are homophobic, racists. All of this in a couple of years. And I don't think it's as true as the media makes it out to be. There's an avenue of truth to it. But it's the same thing. Pedophiles is not a crime. It's a sexual orientation. If that's not sick, I don't know what is. Transgenderism is heroism. It's not heroism. So you're looking at a very big war. The Ramchal speaks about the final war in the end of days isn't so much about machine guns and machetes against ISIS and the conservatives. It's the war of good against evil. Now, before you say, who are you calling evil there? It's the war of purity against impurity. Whatever you say about gay marriages, do not tell me that is the biblical stance of purity. That cannot be said. You can say you don't agree with the Torah Brady Bunch feel, but we all know that gay marriage is not in the Torah. We all know that there's something a bit spicy going on in the gay union. And the traditional male-female role, it's not as exotic in how it's portrayed. Now, how you view that religiously or whatever, that's upon you. The final war, as the Ramchal describes, is that war. Is the Torah archaic and is supposed to be a spicy environment of, a little bit of getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar? You leave me alone, I do what I do, you do what you do? Or is there a construct of society of morals, and is there a greater good in the traditional male-female marriage, traditional clothes, traditional gender assignment, all these things? Is the Torah eternal and more beautiful than we know? Or is it really just some outdated document and really the latest blown off of social norm? That war is how the definition of the war will be in the end of days. And maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I can tell from what the Pope is saying, what's going on with all these different things, the church and all these things, the war began on Friday, and you can feel in the world, on the internet, the news, things are spinning out of control. That to me is the biggest sign of the prophecy then.
Talk a little bit more about what the Pope said and how that relates to us, because the Pope is not exactly a Jew, but did he say something that's emis anyway, or met truth, and we should pay attention and listen to what he said?
I didn't check the headlines today. I saw the flash of an eye on Facebook. What I have seen, Islam is religion of peace. Okay, we know that's not true. Why is he saying it? He allows gays to come into the Catholic Church. That's been a dogma since the beginning. Why is he going against that? He wants Kever David. Why is he doing that? It's clearly not Beseder. He's working with Shimon Peres and the Israeli government. Why? It's not Beseder. So, he's playing a very peculiar part. I think it's worth watching what he says, not today maybe, but in the next couple weeks. Every day. Watch the Pope. Because he's supposed to be a staunch enemy of this whole thing. And he's not. I'm not speaking conspiracy here. I'm saying what is going on in the world. Why is the White House painted in a rainbow color? Not to say it's right or wrong. It just has never been done before. You haven't seen such extremes. Right? There's been many transgender assignments over the years. Why is Bruce Jenner now a hero? There's a lot of transgender people. Why is he the hero? Why is it now being breathed down our neck? You will accept him and you will realize he's a hero. Makes no sense. Why are schools now saying you can question your gender? Don't think that because you're born a boy, you have to be a boy. You might not really be a boy. Why now? Why are all these things being pressed now? Why is the internet a city of filth when it comes to these things? Why now? Now, there's a lot of good in the world. Don't get me wrong. Torah is going around the internet more than ever. And there's a lot of good in society more than ever. Again, that contrast tells me, at least, from what I can perceive, and especially with the religious leaders. I mean, look, Judaism has its issues with its rabbis, the Pope and the churches. Islam need not any mention how crazy it is. The world religiously is to the point where America is erasing "In God We Trust." The godly nation is no more a godly nation. That is a fact. Fact. You can say we're a good nation, we're a good people, we pay our taxes, we have an American dream, but you can no longer say "In God We Trust." You have separated church and state. That is a big deal, especially when America was the world superpower from the 3 laws of Noah. If Russia is willing to say "In God We Trust," that's out of this world. I mean, what if Lubavitch of Russia, because I know they have an influence there, imagine if they really are getting to Putin. Imagine if Putin is a secret ger. King David says, in the end of days, the men of nobility, the gerim of the world that are hidden, will end up paying tribute to Jerusalem, ushering in redemption. We have no idea where these hidden people are. All we can identify them is by their stamp of truth, i.e. the 7 laws of Noah, or 3 laws that they express. That's the Ger Nation today, the Noahide, all these different groups. Wouldn't it be something out of just left field if the Lubavitch of Russia, which we've seen news go along these lines, really has got Putin to be the mantle of the 3 laws of Noah taken away from America? I mean, that is just such a profound concept if it ends up being exactly how God has it played out.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. The email is messiahhour@gmail.com. The PayPal, if you want to make a donation, is israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Again, israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. My guest is Rabbi David Katz. Let's talk about if the Torah is logical, because a lot of people say it's not logical to outlaw gay marriage. Well, perhaps the Torah is not logical, and does that matter if it's logical or not, the Torah, I'm saying?
This is the number one problem with religion. In my field of ger, the biblical non-Jew, Noahide, righteous Gentile, everybody who thinks that he's logical. Well, if I'm a non-Jew, and I see that this applies to me. Why should I not do it? I love God. And this gets me close to God. The Torah wisdom would say its own methodology. Right? The Torah is not logical. You cannot read the Talmud and say, oh, well, now that I saw what it says, it makes sense. Okay. No. By definition, even if you're semi-right, you missed the wisdom. It's like when you're trying to have a conversation and a person is being specific. And then you reiterate back to them, yeah, sure, all right, whatever, okay. All right, no, listen, I need you here at 11:03 for the show. I'm like, all right, I'll see you around 11. No, 11:03. Yeah, I'll see you around 11. All right, that's my rationale. And I'm saying Ari's doesn't really have a soul here. He's just saying around 11, he's being a bad day and he's coming down on me with his 11:03. The fact is, if someone says that, they're not just speaking logically. There's method to the madness. The Torah says a lot of kind of prickly, buzzy, weird things, such as gay, such as all the morality issues. How about the seemingly immoral issues? Meaning the permitted illicit relationships allowed in Torah. A cousin can marry a cousin. You say, what? How's that possible? It is. But certain things are not allowed. A man can marry, a man can marry his niece in Torah law. But a aunt cannot marry her nephew. That is not rational by men. The Torah is telling you, you don't know the relationship between man and women like I do God. God says a woman aunt is not permitted to her nephew. That is not a kosher relationship. A uncle and his niece, for whatever reason, God understands the nature of people in this world is a permitted relationship. Might not be ideal. It's not something that, let's say, a Kohen would do, because he has to be very strong in his yichus, his lineage. But for whatever reason, some things are close to being forbidden, but are permitted. They're not logical. Right? If we look at the gay marriage, the gay relationship, some aspects are going to be allowed. Let's say they live I'm just speaking general here, to not get into details. Two men live together, but they don't touch each other. Torah says, go ahead, no problem. Once they sign a contract, it becomes penalized. So there's levels. And it cannot be learned by what I feel is appropriate. It's a wisdom from God to Moses on Sinai, the wisdom of the world. Just like the gazelle knows and ends up in the mouth of the lion. Mankind, in an ideal state, knows what is allowed to come in the proximity of men, relationships, men and women, all these things. There is a real wisdom construct of society. It is not okay for me to make fun of another person, let's say. But that's not a rational rule. The rule is, if I make fun of you, you're going to punch me in the face. Right? There are rules of how the world works. And those rules are not necessarily logical, the deeper they go. That's what the Torah comes to tell you. Learn the wisdom, find peace on earth. Rely on your own rationale and reasoning, you will find that nature goes berserk. I think now we can see not only is nature going berserk, but the nature of man is going berserk. I'm not talking about gay marriage. Let's talk about all the other things going on. Chopping off heads of ISIS. All right, the racial crimes in Baltimore. That is nature going batty. Because we are taking nature into our own hands. And that is exactly what God warns in the very giving of the Torah.
All right, last question we have for you, Rabbi. Let's talk about the concept of Takoda DOM. Explain to the audience what that is. And as far as you mentioned Bruce Jenner, so let's say Bruce Jenner says, well, I feel that I'm not truly a man and that I'm a woman. How would that apply to Takoda DOM and people's feelings in general of who they really are?
You got to say that again, man. You blocked out on half that sentence.
Okay. All right, so Rabbi, let's talk about the concept of Tikkun Adam and what that means to our audience, because you would have a person like Bruce Jenner who says, I'm a woman, I'm not a man, and if other people feel that that's who they are, or other people think that they're not born the way they are, etc., how does that apply with the concept of Tikkun Adam?
The Torah wants you to be in reality, right? It doesn't want you to be ethnocentric. Jews not recognizing non-Jews is not reality. You can't just say, well, Jews are great, and non-Jews are a figment of our imagination. Let's just ignore them and pretend they don't exist. The Torah will constantly remind you of reality. God has the two names of which we'll mention. Yud-Keh Vav-Keh, the merciful God, and the name Elohim, Din, judgment. You do not escape the judgment of God. This is what people don't realize. But the name Yud-Keh Vav-Keh allows you to work with God. Meaning, if I say, you know what, Ari, your show's horrible, go away. I cannot come back a week later and say, hey, Ari, man, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I said it. I have to now deal with, you have hurt feelings that were hurt. Now you're not so quick to trust me. I can't just say, cut it out, Ari. Forget it. I was just kidding. It doesn't work that way. There are consequences for your actions. If we have a radio show and I just blow you off because I don't care, that has repercussions. Whatever we do, we have repercussions. So that's called reality. And gender is a reality. Bruce Jenner is a reality. So here he is portraying himself as the hero. You don't know what it's like. I'm a woman now. You're not. And the people are buying it like, he has rights. He's a woman. Really? What I want to know is what's going on in the mental pathways of Bruce Jenner. Is there really no other agenda? Is there no reality show involved? Fame? Just resentment, grudge effect? And then you say, who are you to judge? Well, generally I'm not, and we never are. But the Torah tells you certain things about reality. If you tell me that you were born a man and now you are a woman, my logical senses would say, hey, who am I to judge? I don't really know what's going on. And logically, hey, if you have the body parts, why not? Torah says, no, that is not reality. If you're born a man, you are a man. If you are born a woman, you are a woman. You then have a mitzvah to marry and produce children. Gay or transgender does not carry that mitzvah, and by no means do we have a right to not do that mitzvah. Now you'll say, what about all the people that never had kids? Are they wicked? No, they're not wicked, but they did not perform the mitzvah for whatever reason. Now, there's another level of taking yourself out of the mitzvah. Why is it wrong to neuter a dog? I don't know if this is the derisa din, but this is what the party line is in yeshiva. You don't take away a dog's only mitzvah of the right to fruitful and multiply. I know that's what they say. I didn't look it up as if it's like, you get stoned if you don't do that. But my point is you don't remove yourself from a mitzvah. Right? If a man has sexual issues, he doesn't castrate himself saying, okay, no more issues. Right? If you get caught, if you have a problem with stealing, you don't cut your hand off and say, okay, now I can't steal. You don't have a right to remove the yoke of Torah and God from upon you. So whatever Jenner did, he's trying to sell the world on he was a man and now he's not. Not only is that illogical, because I saw an article that you have to remove his gold medals from the Olympics because he won those Olympics as a woman and it's illegal to compete against men if you're a woman. And they said, oh, don't be silly. Well, it's not silly. That's the logic you're bringing down. The alternative is the Torah says if you're whatever you are, you are. And you have to deal with what you are. And if you're looking for some kind of identity, which most likely you are, then dig deeper. What it really is you're looking for your bina. You're looking for the femininity that exists in man. You say, oh, that's gay. Don't call me gay. That's not gay. The entire repair of Adam is to connect to the Eve that came from him, the female understanding quality Adam was to find in himself. It's very much easier in society today to just kind of do away with the responsibility and get the satisfied result. You know, it's like saying, I want to know what it feels like to be a woman. That's not true. If you investigate objectively what you're going through, what it is you want to understand what is the divine feminine. And every man on the planet wants to know that. It's called the acquisition of female intellect, Bina. Why is that not articulated? Because until you learn Torah, according to the premise, there's an established male and female, you can't even articulate these things. So the more barrier you build up through sin and transgression and distancing from God, you're not even aware of what your body's trying to tell you in an articulate way. Therefore, you'll scheme against God to do something unnatural. The Torah says you don't have that right to be unnatural and to be something not genuine, artificial. You must be genuine. A real man is the man that discovers his feminine. The real woman is she who discovers her masculine. You call that marriage. The Torah defines marriage. It's not just a love affair and a self-gratification. On the literal side, it's the inheritance of possessions the children produced in a fruitful marriage. On a spiritual side, it's the binding of souls, as it says, you will be one flesh. There's a natural way of one flesh and an unnatural way. Either God knows best or man knows best. And that's the question that mankind is being confronted with. Do you know more than God? Or are you willing to explore what God says and what God means? And with that, we'll see where Friday takes us. And it looks like we're going into uncharted territory when the world is, what Torah believes and teaches, the world will find the ways of God. I just hope it comes in a merciful way by holding on to Torah beliefs and wisdom, and not through a judgment way by the let's call it the conservative Christians that are not in the Torah are preaching the days of doom and gloom. The Torah teaches mercy. God is merciful. And with that, I hope and pray that we have a merciful conclusion to this world and bring Torah justice to society.
All right, this has been another episode of the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. The email is messiahhour@gmail.com. The PayPal is israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. My guest has been Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the book The World of the Ger. Rabbi Katz, thank you for being on. Great job as always.
Thanks for having me back, Ari. I know it was a tough topic, and I hope we did it justice.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, this has been the Messiah Hour here on israelsportsnewsradio.com.